The morning air at Camp Brixton smelled of dust and diesel. Trucks lined up in crooked rows, engines humming like tired beasts. Private Elara Miles wiped the sweat from her brow, squinting at the horizon where the desert met the clouds. She had been in the army for 6 months now. Long enough to stop shaking when a gun went off nearby, but not long enough to stop feeling small in a world of uniforms and orders. Her new assignment was as dull as it sounded: checkpoint duty. Standing under the scorching sun, checking IDs, waving vehicles through, writing names in a logbook that no one seemed to ever read. It wasn't glorious, it wasn't dangerous, it was just routine. And routine, she told herself, was good. Routine meant safe. That morning, a convoy of armored trucks was set to pass through the southern gate routine supply transfer. Elara was stationed there with Sergeant Brigg, a gruff man with a voice like gravel and a permanent scowl. He didn't talk much, which suited her fine. She liked quiet, she liked being unnoticed. But that changed when the general's vehicle appeared. The convoy slowed as it neared the checkpoint. Engines growling, the black SUV in the center gleamed under the harsh sun, its flag fluttering slightly. Elara stood straight, brushing the dust from her uniform, and tried to look like she wasn't melting inside her boots. General Kade Ronan was known across the base, a war hero, decorated in 3 campaigns, feared by his enemies and, truth be told, most of his own men. He wasn't the kind of man who smiled. People said his eyes could freeze a man mid-sentence. The SUV stopped. The door opened, and the general stepped out. Elara's heart stuttered for no good reason. She'd seen him once before from a distance, but up close, the air seemed to tighten around him. His uniform was pressed to perfection, his medals gleaming faintly. He spoke to Sergeant Brigg in a low, clipped tone. Then, his gaze shifted, straight to her. "You," he said. Elara froze. "Sir?" He took a step closer, scanning her from head to toe. "Private Miles, is it?" "Yes, sir." His eyes flicked to her dog tag, catching the glint of metal against her collarbone. His expression changed, not much, but enough that she noticed. It wasn't confusion, it was recognition. Then something darker, almost disbelief. He reached out. "May I see your tag, soldier?" Elara hesitated only a second before pulling it from under her shirt. He took it in his gloved hand, his eyes tracing the small engraved symbols on the back, symbols she'd never paid much attention to. When she was issued her tag, she'd just assumed the strange marking was a manufacturing stamp or serial code. But the general stared at it for a long, tense moment. Then he looked at her again, softer this time, but not gentler. "Who gave you this tag?" he asked quietly. I was issued it, sir, when I enlisted." He nodded slowly, then handed it back. "Report to my office at 19. Elara blinked. "Sir? Did I do something wrong?" His jaw tightened. "Just be there, Private." And with that, he turned and walked back to his SUV, leaving her standing in the sun, her heart pounding in her ears. Sergeant Brigg grunted beside her. "You really caught his eye, huh? Must have done something special." "I didn't do anything," Elara muttered. "Yeah," Brigg said, smirking. "That's what worries me." The rest of the shift passed in a blur. She couldn't focus. Every time she looked down at her tag, that little mark seemed to burn into her skin. When her shift finally ended, she hurried to the barracks, showered, and changed into a clean uniform. The clock seemed to tick louder with every minute closer to. When the time came, she walked to the general's quarters, a place most soldiers avoided unless summoned. The guards at the door checked her name, exchanged a puzzled glance, and then let her through. Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of old leather. Maps lined the walls, red pins marking unknown places. The general sat behind a heavy oak desk, reading a file. He didn't look up immediately. When he did, his eyes looked different, calmer, but still sharp. "Private Miles," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Sit." She did, spine straight, palms sweating. He studied her again, almost as if trying to find something in her face. "Tell me," he began, "where are you from?" "Riverside, sir." "Small town, not much there." "Parents?" "My mom passed when I was young. My dad, I never knew him." The general nodded slowly, as if that confirmed something. "And you enlisted voluntarily?" "Yes, sir." He leaned back, exhaling. "That mark on your dog tag, it isn't standard issue. That symbol belongs to an old division, the Iron Order." Elara frowned. "I've never heard of it. Most haven't. It was disbanded nearly 20 years ago after a failed operation." He paused, his gaze distant for a moment. "Everyone in that division carried tags marked with that symbol. Everyone except one." Elara swallowed. "One?" He looked at her, voice low. "The daughter of Captain Elara Miles." Her breath caught. "My father." The general nodded once. "Yes. He served under me." Elara shook her head. "That can't be right. My mother never told me." "She couldn't," the general said quietly. "Because Elara Miles didn't just serve. He vanished. On the night the Iron Order fell." The room seemed to shrink around her. She tried to speak, but no words came. The general stood and walked to a cabinet, pulling out a small, dusty box. He placed it on the desk, unlocking it with a small key. Inside were several photographs, black and white, edges frayed. In one of them, a man with the same eyes as hers stood in uniform, smiling beside General Ronan. "That's him," Ronan said. "Captain Elara Miles. He was the best man I ever served with." Elara stared, her throat tightening. "What happened to him?" The general's expression darkened. "He disappeared during Operation Black Veil. Everyone thought he died, but his body was never found. And now, 20 years later, his daughter shows up with his division's mark." He leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. "Tell me, Private, has anyone ever followed you, watched you?" She blinked. "What?" No, I don't think so." "Think harder," he said. "Strange calls. Faces you've seen more than once. Things that didn't feel right." Elara hesitated. "There was a man outside the base last week, in a gray coat, just standing there. I thought he was a contractor, but he was gone when I looked again." The general's eyes hardened. "They found you then?" "Who?" she asked, her voice shaking. He didn't answer immediately. He looked at her tag again, as if it carried a secret he didn't dare speak. Then he said quietly, "Your father wasn't killed in battle. He was taken." Elara felt her stomach drop. "Taken? By who?" "The same people who marked you," he said. "And if they know you're here—" A knock on the door interrupted him. A soldier entered, saluting quickly. "Sir, we have movement near the south perimeter. Unidentified vehicles. No transponder signals." The general's expression turned to stone. "Sound the alarm. Lock down the base." The soldier rushed out. Elara rose, heart racing. "What's happening?" The general grabbed his weapon from the desk, checking the magazine. "It's starting," he said grimly, "and I'm afraid it's because of you." The sirens blared outside, sharp and urgent. Elara could hear the base coming alive, boots pounding. Orders shouted, the low thunder of engines starting. "Sir, what do you mean, because of me?" she asked. The general turned toward her, his face shadowed by the flickering red light from the alarm. "Because, Private Miles, they're not here to attack the base." He paused, voice like ice. "They're here to retrieve you." Elara's stomach twisted as the words sank in. "They're here to retrieve you." She didn't understand. None of this made sense. Just hours ago, she was checking vehicles under the hot sun. Now alarms were blaring, soldiers shouting, and the general was talking like she was some kind of target. "Sir, there must be a mistake," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm just a checkpoint officer. I don't even know who—" "Not anymore." The general cut her off, loading his sidearm. "You're Elara Miles' daughter. That makes you valuable. More valuable than you realize." Outside, the ground vibrated with the rumble of approaching engines. The distant pop of gunfire echoed across the desert. Red lights flashed through the window. "Follow me," the general ordered. They stepped into the corridor as soldiers ran past in tight formations. The air reeked of smoke and adrenaline. Sirens wailed like dying machines. Elara struggled to keep up, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. "General, who are these people?" she shouted over the noise. He didn't answer until they reached a reinforced door at the end of the hall. "A rogue unit," he said. "Men who once served under the Iron Order. After the operation collapsed, they went underground. Mercenaries now. They've spent years hunting what your father protected." He punched in a code. The steel door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit armory filled with rifles, crates, and a faint hum from the ventilation system. "What was he protecting?" she asked, her voice small. Ronan grabbed 2 rifles, tossing one to her. "You," he said simply. Before she could react, an explosion rocked the building. The walls shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere outside, someone screamed. "Move," the general barked. They sprinted down a narrow corridor that led to an underground passage. The base above was chaos, sirens, shouting, the staccato rattle of gunfire. Elara's mind raced, her thoughts blurring into fragments. Her father's face from that old photo, the strange symbol on her dog tag, the man in the gray coat. It all connected somehow, but she couldn't see how. When they reached the end of the tunnel, the general stopped and pressed a hidden switch on the wall. A steel hatch slid open, leading to a secret hangar beneath the base. Inside was a single aircraft, a small black VTOL with faded insignias. "Get in," he ordered. "Where are we going?" "To finish what your father started." They climbed aboard, the engines roaring to life. Through the small window, Elara could see flames rising from the base. Figures moved in the distance. Men in dark combat suits. Faces hidden behind mirrored masks. As the aircraft lifted off, she finally found her voice. "You said they took my father." "Why?" The general kept his eyes on the horizon. "Because he discovered something during Operation Black Veil. Something the government buried. A weapon that wasn't supposed to exist." "A weapon?" He nodded grimly. "Codenamed Echo. It wasn't a bomb or a machine. It was biological. A human experiment. Soldiers enhanced with neural tech, designed to sync with command frequencies, but it didn't stop there." Elara's hands trembled on the armrest. "What do you mean?" Ronan glanced at her. "Your father found out they were experimenting on soldiers' children. He tried to shut it down. When he refused to hand over his research, they made him disappear." She felt the air leave her lungs. "Are you saying they experimented on me?" His silence was answer enough. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the aircraft. The desert below stretched endlessly, dotted with shadows. Elara stared at her hands, memories flashing in fragments. The strange nightmares she'd had as a child, the way machines sometimes reacted around her, flickering screens, buzzing radios. She'd always thought it was coincidence. Now she wasn't sure. The general finally spoke. "Your father left something behind, a failsafe. A hidden archive only his bloodline could access. The mark on your tag is the key." She blinked. "That symbol?" He nodded. "It's a genetic cipher. He embedded it with your DNA before he disappeared. Whatever's in that archive, the people hunting you want it." Before she could respond, a sharp alarm beeped in the cockpit. Missiles incoming, the autopilot droned. The general cursed. Hold on. The sky lit up as two streaks of light tore through the night. The aircraft jerked hard to the left, the world spinning in a blur of stars and sand. The explosion missed them by inches, but the blast wave slammed into the hull. Metal screamed. They crashed into the dunes with a thunderous roar. When Elara came to, her head throbbed, and everything smelled of smoke and fuel. The general was already on his feet, dragging her out of the wreckage. We need to move, he said. They'll be here in minutes. The desert night was cold now, the stars cruel and bright. Flames licked at the twisted remains of the VTO. In the distance, headlights cut across the sand. Sir, she said weakly, why help me? If this is so dangerous, why not let them take me? The general paused, breathing heavily. Because your father saved my life once. I owe him this much? He glanced toward the distant lights. And because if they get you, they'll finish what they started 20 years ago. They'll build an army that doesn't think, just obeys. They trudged through the dunes toward a jagged cliffside. Behind them, engines roared closer. When they reached a narrow cave entrance, the general guided her inside. The walls were carved with faint markings, symbols matching the one on her tag. Elara ran her fingers over them. What is this place? Your father's last hideout, Ronan said. He built it after he went off the grid. I helped him once before they came for him. Deeper inside, the cave opened into a chamber filled with old-tech computers, dusty monitors, and a small terminal glowing faintly with blue light. Ronan motioned to it. That's the archive. Place your tag in the slot. Her hands trembled as she did. The moment the metal touched the reader, the screen flickered to life. Lines of data scrolled by in a blur until an image appeared. A message. It was her father, older than in the photo, face worn but eyes bright. If you're seeing this, the recording began, then they've found you. I'm sorry, Elara. I never wanted you to be part of this. But you were born with what they created, what they feared. You are Echo now. The link they could never control. Alara's pulse quickened. Echo? She whispered. The message continued. The Iron Order was meant to be humanity's shield, but some turned it into a weapon. I left you the key to stop them. Use it wisely, trust no one, not even the ones who wear your colors. The screen faded to black. Ronan stood silently beside her. Your father was right, he said softly. You're not just his daughter. You're the last piece of the project, and now they'll do anything to have you. Outside, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the cave. Flashlights flickered against the walls. They're here, Elara whispered. Ronan handed her a rifle. Then we make them regret it. Gunfire erupted at the cave mouth. Sparks flew off the rocks. The general fired back, precise and deadly. Elara ducked behind a console, adrenaline flooding her veins. For the first time, she didn't feel afraid. She felt focused. The lights flickered again, and something inside her chest buzzed, almost like static. The monitors crackled to life, the air thick with electricity. Elara, the general said, eyes widening. What are you? Before he could finish, the enemy's communication devices began to spark and die. Their drones fell from the air. One by one, their weapons jammed. Elara stared at her hands, trembling as a faint blue glow pulsed beneath her skin. I don't know what's happening, she said. Ronan's voice was steady but awed. Your father's work. It's waking up in you. The last of the attackers retreated into the night, leaving silence behind. Smoke hung in the air. Elara sank to her knees, overwhelmed. What am I supposed to do now? She whispered. The general knelt beside her. You finish what he started. Expose the truth. End the program. She looked out at the horizon. where the first light of dawn painted the dunes gold. The air felt different now, alive. She took off her dog tag and clenched it in her fist. Then let's end it. The general nodded, a rare flicker of pride crossing his face. You have your father's fire, Miles. And as the sun rose over the ruins of the base, Elara Miles, once just another name on a checkpoint roster, walked forward into the light, carrying the legacy of a man the world had forgotten, and the power to change it. Some stories begin with orders. Hers began with a mark, and sometimes the smallest mark can change the fate of everything.